They invited him not to celebrate. They invited him to break him. A single dad in a borrowed suit, walking into a wedding where every smile hid a knife. What they didn't know was this: the man they planned to humiliate had already lost everything once, and a man who has nothing left to lose is the most dangerous guest in the room. Stay till the end, because when the truth finally speaks, the wedding won't be the only thing that collapses. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning, slipped under the door like a quiet insult. Daniel stared at the cream-colored envelope for a long time before opening it, as if it might explode. His ex-wife's name was printed in elegant gold letters, the kind of font that screamed money, pride, and power. Beneath it, the names of her parents, people who had never once spoken to him without reminding him he wasn't good enough. Daniel laughed softly, a tired sound. He already knew why they wanted him there. 3 years earlier, Daniel had walked out of that same family's mansion with nothing but a duffel bag and his 5-year-old son asleep on his shoulder. His ex-wife, Sophia, had chosen comfort over character, wealth over loyalty. When Daniel lost his job after refusing to falsify company records, her family had turned on him overnight. They called him a failure. A burden. A mistake she needed to correct. The divorce had been quick, brutal, public, and now Sophia was marrying someone else, not just someone else, but someone rich. Daniel read the line again: "We would be honored by your presence." Honored. The word almost made him choke. That night, he sat on the edge of the bed tying his son's shoelaces for school the next day. Adam looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes. "Daddy, are you coming to the school play this time?" Daniel swallowed. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." That was the truth of his life now. Missed meals so Adam could eat better. Late nights driving delivery trucks. Early mornings packing lunches with notes that said "I'm proud of you," because nobody had ever written that to him. The wedding was in 4 days. He could decline. He should decline, but something deep inside him, something quiet and unbreakable, said no. They wanted him there for a reason. They wanted him small. Ashamed. Visible proof that Sophia had upgraded. Daniel looked at himself in the mirror that night. Older. Thinner. Eyes carrying storms. "If I go," he whispered, "I go as myself." The wedding day arrived bright and cruelly beautiful. White flowers. Crystal chandeliers. Guests dressed in confidence and silk. Daniel walked in alone, his suit modest, shoes polished carefully the night before. The whispers began immediately: "There he is. That's him. She used to be married to that." Sophia saw him from across the room. Her smile faltered for half a second, just long enough for Daniel to notice. Her parents, seated in the front row, exchanged satisfied looks. This was working. The humiliation had begun. The groom shook Daniel's hand with forced politeness. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice dripping with superiority. Daniel nodded calmly. Wouldn't miss it. They didn't see the way his hands were steady. They didn't hear the promise he made silently to himself, "Not yet," and then came the moment they had planned for weeks, the microphone. Sophia's mother stood, smiling like a queen who had already won. "We have a very special guest today," she announced. "Someone from Sophia's past. Daniel, would you like to say a few words?" Every head turned, every camera lifted. Daniel stood, and the room went quiet in a way that felt like the deep breath before a storm. They thought the microphone would finish him. They didn't know it was about to expose everything they had buried. What Daniel said next wouldn't just change the wedding, it would change how everyone in that room remembered the past, and the real shock. He wasn't there for revenge, but truth has a way of destroying lies. Daniel walked to the center of the room slowly, not because he was afraid, but because he wanted them to feel every step. He looked around at the guests, the polished smiles, the expensive watches, the people who once turned away when he asked for help. He cleared his throat. "Thank you," he said softly. "I wasn't expecting to speak today. But since I was invited, I'll be honest." A few uncomfortable laughs rippled through the room. Daniel continued. "Most of you know me as Sophia's ex-husband. The man who failed. The man she left behind. Sophia's jaw tightened, but very few of you know why our marriage ended. The room shifted. Daniel took a breath. 3 years ago, I worked for my father-in-law's company. I was asked to sign off on documents that would hide illegal transactions. When I refused, I was fired the same day. No severance. No reference. Gasps whispered like sparks. I was told to apologize. To sign anyway. To be a man and do what was necessary. When I didn't, my marriage became inconvenient. Sophia stood abruptly. Daniel, stop. He looked at her gently. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to finish a story you never let me tell. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope. These are copies of emails, messages, threats, and proof that the same company you're celebrating today is currently under investigation. The room erupted. Sophia's father went pale. I kept quiet for years, Daniel said. Because I was raising my son. Because I thought silence was strength. But inviting me here today wasn't about peace, it was about erasing me. He turned to the groom. You seem like a good man. I hope they don't ask you to sign anything one day. The groom stepped back, stunned. Daniel's voice softened. I didn't come to ruin a wedding. I came because my son once asked me why people thought his dad was weak. Tears filled Daniel's eyes, but his voice didn't shake. And I realized. I didn't want him growing up believing lies. The wedding planner rushed forward. Guests were shouting. Phones recorded everything. Sophia collapsed into a chair, hands over her face. Daniel placed the microphone down carefully. I wish you happiness, he said. But happiness built on humiliation never lasts. He walked out to silence, then chaos. Outside, sunlight warmed his face. His phone buzzed. A message from Adam's school. Rehearsal moved earlier. Will you still make it? Daniel smiled. Always, he typed back. Weeks later, the story went viral. Investigations opened. The wedding was quietly annulled. Sophia's family disappeared from society pages. Daniel didn't celebrate any of it. He just kept showing up. To school plays. To soccer games. To quiet nights where his son fell asleep on his chest. One evening, Adam asked, Daddy, are you strong? Daniel kissed his hair. Strong enough to tell the truth. And that was the real ending they never expected. They invited him to humiliate him, but the man who walks in with integrity walks out undefeated, because true power isn't in wealth, status, or applause, it's in standing tall when the whole world expects you to bow.